I've wanted kids, but it's your fault I've had to hold back. You're defective." My husband of 20 years threw these cruel words at me. I realized I couldn't carry on with him. He's off daydreaming about his new marriage. God must have been watching, witnessing this devilish act. That's why something happened to my husband. My name is Lisa. I'm 45 years old. I work as a secretary at a law firm. We're nearing 20 years of marriage. We've led a modest life, just the two of us. We've always wanted children, but we couldn't have any. The problem seemed to be mostly with me. I went for treatments while working, exhausting myself physically, emotionally, and financially, but to no avail. We decided to give up when I turned 40. My husband wanted kids till the end and urged me to continue treatments, but I was at my limit. The pain was unbearable, and the money was just draining away. The situation was terrifying. After all, they say you need $200,000 for retirement. It felt wasteful to pour more money into it. Why don't we stop the treatments and just live as a couple? We can save money and take some luxurious trips since we don't have kids, I suggested, and my husband, albeit reluctantly, agreed. From then on, we decided to enjoy our lives as a couple. Still, seeing children's photos on TV shows or greeting cards, I felt a twinge of regret. Even now, 5 years after stopping treatments, I carry guilt and remorse for not being able to have children. Then, one day, I decided to attend a school reunion after about 10 years. My husband said I should take a break, so I decided to stay overnight near the venue. It felt like a mini vacation. I realized I'd hardly ever been out alone since we got married. My life had been consumed by infertility treatments. A little luxury now and then is okay, right? At the venue, I enjoyed catching up with old friends. "Lisa, long time no see. How are you? Don't you seem a bit slimmer than before?" Indeed, I had lost about 22 pounds over the last decade. "I'm so jealous. Since I got married and had kids, I've gained almost 33 pounds. Even such a trivial conversation from a friend stings a bit. "Lisa, any kids?" "No, we couldn't. It's just the two of us with my husband." "Oh, I'm sorry for asking such an awkward question." "No worries. Let's just have fun." I tried to keep the atmosphere lively and cheerful. Speaking of which, my son was recently almost caught up in a marriage scam. A scam? I was taken aback by my classmates' words. Yes, he was asked to lend $20,000 because they were getting married, but it didn't go through. What? What happened then? My son couldn't afford to pay that much money, so he came to us, his parents, for advice. That's how we discovered the scam. In the end, the woman disappeared. That's a terrifying story. There are some pretty awful women out there, really scary. A marriage scam. I was a bit shocked that something like that could happen so close to home. Her son now has a new girlfriend, and the parents seemed relieved. The reunion went on smoothly and eventually came to an end. Instead of going to the after party, I returned to my hotel and enjoyed a nightcap by myself. Come to think of it, I forgot to check in with my husband. It was only 10 p.m., he should still be up. I tried to call home, but no matter how many times I let it ring, my husband didn't answer. Maybe he had already gone to sleep. Well, I was going back tomorrow anyway, so it wasn't a problem. Still, I had an uneasy feeling. Was it a woman's intuition? I had a bad feeling for some reason. From then on, my husband started coming home extremely late on weekdays, and he started coming home drunk almost every night. "Hey, I'm home." "You, coming home so drunk. Are you okay?" In a drunken stupor, my husband threw his shoes off and sprawled out on the living room floor. "Shut up, I'm home. Show some respect." Respect for what, exactly? His slovenly state? While picking up my husband's discarded socks and shirt, I kept my thoughts to myself. Alyssa was cute, wasn't she? You know, if you were as young as Alyssa. That's what my husband said. Who the hell is Alyssa? What does he mean if I were young? By the time I thought to question him, he was already fast asleep. Could he be cheating on me? My unease from that day was becoming more and more like conviction. No, my husband is a decent man. There's no way he could. It must be drunken nonsense, I reassured myself. But then there's my husband who leaves early in the morning on weekends and doesn't return until late at night. I'll be back later. Take care. And then he comes home drunk, as always. With this happening every week, even I had to intervene. You seem to be going out drinking almost every day recently. Are we okay financially? Mind your own business. It's my money and I'll do what I want with it. It's the savings from my bachelor days. But we need to save up for our old age or we'll be in trouble in the future. Why don't you save up then? Well, I've spent quite a bit on treatments. That's because you're defective. Even if he was drunk, I couldn't believe he'd speak to me that way. I was starting to notice my husband's changes. Did I become more submissive since I stopped treatment? My husband's disparaging remarks about me were increasing. Since you can't have kids, you should show your affection for me instead. And with that, I could feel my love for him diminishing as he splurged and behaved selfishly. He used to be so kind, caring for me when I was having a hard time with treatments. Will he ever return to being that kind of husband? What is a marriage, really? After 20 years, I started to question this. However, things took a sudden turn. Lisa, we need to talk. I came home from work to find my husband sitting on the living room sofa, looking serious. What is it? You're being all formal. I want a divorce. What? You're joking, right? Why would you say that all of a sudden? The thought that my husband was considering a divorce had never crossed my mind. Yes, I knew we had to reconsider our relationship as a married couple, but I hadn't thought about divorce. Was my husband thinking of divorce before I even considered it? Out of the blue, you want a divorce? What's going on? I confronted my husband, seeking answers. We've been a couple for 20 years, haven't we? Let's discuss this properly. However, he looked at me with contempt. You're really clueless, aren't you? He sighed heavily, glaring at me. What do you mean? I've always wanted children for these past 20 years. And because I got stuck with a defective piece like you, I've been robbed of the opportunity to become a father. Have you ever considered my feelings? As he spoke, he pounded the table with an arrogant tone. That's not fair. We discussed together and decided to stop the treatments, remember? I was never okay with that. I've always wanted a child. Why hadn't he told me that then? I was on the verge of tears, overwhelmed by sadness and frustration. Well, if you sign the divorce papers, I won't have anything else to say. Proudly, he pushed the divorce papers on the table towards me. I've actually already decided to remarry. What? Remarry? Yeah, with a 20-year-old girl. A girl? Are you saying you've been having an affair? No way. I plan on marrying her as soon as we're divorced. He announced this with a smug satisfaction. A 20-year-old girl was marrying my husband? This couldn't be happening. Alyssa, she's sweet and cute. The perfect wife. Not like you. Alyssa. That was the name my husband had mentioned that day. Woman's intuition was not to be underestimated. I felt a sense of self-satisfaction, but this wasn't the time for self-praise. And then my husband showed me a picture of his adorable Alyssa. Upon taking a closer look, I nearly burst out laughing. This has to be a joke. Something like this was impossible. What? He noticed my strange reaction, but I quickly regained my composure. I felt it was too soon to let him in on the joke, so I immediately composed myself. So you really want a child that badly? Yes, because you can't give birth. There's nothing we can do about that, right? You will agree to divorce, won't you? Well, I suppose there's no choice. I pretend to look more upset than I really am. Sure, I was upset when he first brought up the divorce, but now, with his sheer stupidity, I feel like it would be right to divorce him immediately. Yes, I should leave a man like this sooner or later. I feel as if I've been given divine guidance to do so. I sign the divorce papers and leave my husband behind. I'll bet he'll regret this soon enough. Well, let's just watch and see. Fast forward a year after the divorce. Lisa, please help me. A shabby-looking man approaches me on my way home from work. Excuse me, who are you? I genuinely don't recognize him. It's me, Lisa. I need your help. It's my ex-husband. Long time no see. I'm taken aback by how much he's changed. His cheeks are sunken, and he's dressed shabbily. Please, Alice, introduce me to your company's lawyer. I can't just do that out of the blue. Apparently, my ex-husband is having money troubles. I could sort of tell from his appearance, but I never thought he would become a completely different person within a year. If it's your first time, consultation is free. Free? But if you want to hire them, you'll have to pay their fee. I don't have that kind of money. Please, help me. What on earth happened? I decided to listen to his story at a nearby cafe out of pity. Well, actually, before he could say another word, I cut him off. Did that girl, Alyssa, run off? How did you know? Just as I thought. When my ex-husband showed me a picture of a girl named Alyssa, it clicked. That girl looked exactly like the one who conned a classmate's son at a reunion. At that reunion, the classmate was saying, "I can't forgive that woman," and showed her picture around, warning everyone. I think her name was Sally and she was about 22. Well, her age and name are probably fake. It makes sense. The swindler wouldn't use her real name, of course. You knew about Alyssa, didn't you? Well, I guess you could say I knew, but what happened? When I asked my husband for the details, this was the story he gave. He met a woman named Alyssa about a year ago in a nightclub. My husband, who has always wanted children, seemed to have been venting such thoughts in his conversations with her. That's when Alyssa said, "I can have a child for you." The two gradually deepened their relationship after that. My husband would go to the club almost every weekday and would date Alyssa outside the club on weekends, then return to the club. In doing so, he ended up using $10,000 from his savings that he had accumulated when he was single. But Alyssa was so sweet. She never asked for expensive things even when we were outside the club. She was just happy drinking with me at the club. She was different from the stereotypical opportunistic club girls you often hear about. She didn't need designer goods or jewelry. She was satisfied if I was there drinking with her at the club. She was hardworking and sincere. We had agreed not to touch each other's savings from when we were single, so I never noticed anything. I thought it was his money and he could use it as he pleased. I had no idea he was spending that much. And then Alyssa showed her true colors. "I want to get married, but I have debts, so I need to repay them, and it's about $20,000. Then my husband promised to take on Alyssa's debt and transferred the money to her. They moved in together right after our divorce, but Alyssa continued her night work and rarely came home. And then she quit her job at the club and disappeared. Of course, she took all the money and ran. Just how foolish can he be? I started to feel pathetic for having been married to such a man for 20 years. Did you make a promissory note? A what? When I asked, my husband looked puzzled. You lent her money, didn't you? Didn't you get a note? We were going to be a couple, so I didn't do such a thing. Really? So doesn't it mean you just gave her the money? Is that so? In this case, it seems like you donated $20,000 to Alyssa out of goodwill. This woman must be a pro. In the case of donations, if the amount exceeds $11,000 in a year, gift tax is imposed. Depending on the case, the receiver might be taxed, so Alyssa just took $20,000 in cash and vanished. And she split the money into 2 parts across 2 different years. That way, she wouldn't exceed the $11,000 limit and could avoid taxes. The reason my husband thought she was a good girl who never asked for material gifts was because she knew the law well. So what should I do? I don't know, maybe consult a lawyer? It'll cost you, though. Upon hearing that, my husband's shoulders slumped. I've used up all my savings from my single days. The woman I loved ran away from me. I can't tell the company that the marriage is off after I've already told them about remarrying. I boasted about getting a younger wife. Isn't that his own doing? Although I thought that, seeing his pitiful situation, I couldn't say anything. Lisa, it's my fault. Please, come back to me. I realized after you were gone, you were the only one who cared about me. I don't need kids anymore. I'll let you do as you like. You must have been lonely too, right? Does my husband still misunderstand that I still love him? That matter ended half a year ago in my mind, so I confronted him with reality. You know, it's been a year. What's with this sudden change of heart? Isn't it a little too late now? Lisa, are you going to abandon me? Well, it was you who pushed for our divorce in the first place, remember? Lisa, you're the only one I can rely on. My ex-husband looked utterly exhausted. I decided to show him a little mercy. All right then, shall I call up a lawyer friend of mine? Lisa, thank you. I knew I could count on you. With tears welling up in his eyes, my ex-husband seemed genuinely grateful. And the one who came to the coffee shop was Mr. Johnson, the lawyer from my company. John, over here. Lisa, who's this? He's an acquaintance. Seems he's in a bit of a bind. Is that so? Nice to meet you. The name's Johnson. My ex-husband seemed somewhat perplexed by our overly familiar demeanor. You see, we've been dating for the past 6 months. Now what was it you needed advice on? As I finished speaking, my ex-husband looked as if he was in a daze. No, well, I think that'll be it for today. Suddenly snapping back to reality, my ex-husband hurriedly left the coffee shop. In the end, he couldn't afford to hire a lawyer and resigned himself to his fate. Rumor has it that his company has been abuzz with talk of his unfortunate situation, left by his soon-to-be wife, ignored by his ex-wife. It's a small world. Who would have thought that one of his colleagues was at the same coffee shop, overhearing the entire conversation from start to finish? I heard through the grapevine that he's frantically trying to find a new partner, terrified of facing old age alone. Who was that guy? When Mr. Johnson asked me about it later, I told him the whole story. I'm sorry for involving you in all this. The truth is... I see. You've had quite the ordeal, Lisa. The part about me dating Mr. Johnson was a complete lie. I had asked him to play along with the charade. Sorry for all the trouble. No worries, Lisa. I'm glad I could be of help. By the way, do you have any plans after this? Excuse me? How about grabbing something to eat if you'd like? Caught off guard by this unexpected turn of events, I was a little flustered. A fresh start in my mid-40s. This isn't such a bad beginning. Yes, I'd love to. I was certain a fun-filled future was awaiting me. I couldn't shake off this feeling. I'm Daniel. My parents passed away in a car accident during the winter of my 3rd year of junior high. At that time, my younger brother John had just entered elementary school and couldn't do much without someone's help. Our relatives weren't unkind people, and they mourned our misfortune with us. However, all their households had circumstances that made it impossible for them to take in both a 15-year-old and 7-year-old child. Essentially, we had no one to rely on. So, although I had plans to go to high school, I decided to give that up. Instead, I began working as a construction worker at a local construction company from the spring. While my classmates were attending high school and enjoying their youth, I had to work from morning till evening, sweating it out. It was tough, and people around me who didn't know my situation suspected poor academic ability or bad conduct, which sometimes made me feel miserable. But watching over and raising my little brother was much more important. I didn't want him to feel lonely, and I wanted him to live as normally as possible. Therefore, I worked my tail off every day, doing house chores even though I wasn't used to it, and helping him with his studies at night, spending all my time raising him. Perhaps, thanks to that, he grew up to be a studious and hard-working young man, progressing smoothly from middle school to high school, then to university, and eventually getting a job. Intelligent and hard-working, he is the pride of my life. When John went to college, a relative who helped him financially said, "It's because of you, Daniel, your hard work, that John grew up so straight." I was prouder than ever. One day, my adorable younger brother, brought his girlfriend home. She was the daughter of a large company. She certainly had good manners and seemed smart. I wouldn't use the term a mismatch in social status nowadays, but considering our family circumstances, the relationship between him and her felt exactly like that. Though he was clearly smitten, I found myself quite intimidated by her refined aura. Moreover, we never had much female company in our house, so I had zero experience entertaining women, which made me very nervous. Despite the nerves on my part, it seemed to have been worth it. His girlfriend showed appreciation for our hospitality, and she treated me kindly, acknowledging me as her boyfriend's brother. I envied him for having such a wonderful person as his future wife. I wanted them to be absolutely happy, so I wanted to cherish my sister-in-law as much as him, at least at first. Since then, John's girlfriend has come to my house several times. Although she seemed uncomfortable in our small house, she behaved cheerfully most of the time. I was happy to think that she was getting used to our house. As if to validate that feeling, when it was decided that he and she were to get married, I felt even more relieved and delighted. However, it was a Sunday, just about a week before the wedding ceremony. Though I had the day off and was taking it easy at home, I received a call on my cell phone from John's girlfriend. Even though it was only over the phone, her voice sounded very different from when she was with him, and she sounded upset. "Brother-in-law, about John's and my wedding next week. Could you not attend?" "What do you mean?" I asked, surprised, but she continued without paying attention. "Well, you see, my family has a fair bit of stature. I can understand John being there because he's brilliant and handsome regardless of his background. But for someone like you, Daniel, who lacks educational and professional credentials, to be part of our family is a bit troubling, let's say. It's not just about me. I can't put my parents through the embarrassment or discomfort." She spoke clearly, not mincing words. John had told me that he liked her straightforward personality, but to me, it was just cruel. "I understand that legally you can't sever the ties of brotherhood, so I'll give up on that. But at the very least, I would like to pretend you don't exist. All I'm asking is for you to not attend the wedding and not be present at family gatherings. Can you do that, for the sake of John's and my bright future?" Regardless of how she feels, when she says it's for his bright future, I can't deny her words. After all, I've lived my life up until now for his happiness. I can't go against that policy at this point, even if that meant I couldn't be present on his big day. "I understand your point. I too have lived long enough, and it's not like I haven't been told about my lack of education and career credentials. If my absence will be beneficial for John and you, I will not attend the ceremony. Is that okay?" "Yes, I really appreciate it." As soon as I confirmed my absence, her mood seemed to brighten, and she said goodbye in the cheerful voice I was familiar with, and hung up the phone. After the call, I felt a wave of exhaustion and ended up slumping on the floor. Even though I said all that, it doesn't mean that I'm not upset. Rather, the fact that someone who is going to be family, his wife, thinks of me in such a way is sad. What's most painful is not being able to attend his wedding. I wanted to take our parents' portraits there and celebrate with the four of us as a family. But I can't deny it. The truth is, my academic abilities are not strong, and my employment history is not something to be proud of. It was my own decision to give up on pursuing a higher education, so the one to blame is actually me. I'm the one dampening his new beginning. I'm the one casting a shadow over his important milestone. As I fell into deep self-loathing, I spent the day feeling depressed. After being in a daze all day, unable to focus on anything, he returned home after finishing work. While having dinner, he shared various things with me about the wedding reception, honeymoon, and their future life. However, due to what he had said earlier, I found it difficult to come up with a witty response or engage in a meaningful conversation. "Daniel, what's wrong? Are you feeling ill?" John looked at me worriedly, but I didn't know how to respond. I'm not particularly bright, and I'm bad at lying. So in times like these, I usually speak up, but I don't want to say anything bad about the woman who is about to become his wife. However, if he were to say the same thing as her, then I could accept it. I could bear to graciously decline attending the wedding. Afterwards, realizing the importance of my relationship with him, I mustered the courage to be honest and share all my feelings and thoughts, even though I knew it might make him dislike me. Your girlfriend told me, someone who can't exactly boast a life to be proud of, not to attend your wedding, she said. If you feel the same way, just tell me outright. The most painful thing for me is to be a burden to you. If you don't want me to attend, I'll gladly comply. And then, with a voice seething with anger from the core of his being, he said this to me. You really think I would say something like that? There's no way I could think something so cruel about the only family I have. Roaring those words, John calmed down a bit. Then, with a look as if he just thought of something, he said to me, Daniel, how about not coming to the wedding just as she said? Please, I'd like you to wait for me at home. Is that okay? Wait, what do you mean? The words were quite shocking, but I understood from John's subsequent words that there was some thought behind it. There's no need to show up to a celebration involving someone who says terrible things, Daniel. On the wedding day, although I was told not to come, I was still worried. To my brother, I'm the only person he can call family. I couldn't help but worry if there were any issues or disputes during the family gathering. So I got dressed in my brother's suit and secretly went to the venue, but it was strangely quiet at my younger brother's place. I approached one of the staff members who seemed troubled, wondering what was happening, and asked, Sorry for being late, but how far has the ceremony progressed? The staff member replied, We can't start the ceremony because none of your groom's family has arrived yet. What? I was led to John's dressing room and asked him, John, our uncles haven't arrived? Daniel, that's right. I told them not to come. Why did you suddenly say not to come? If I told our uncles and aunts what you've been told, they'd say, well, we're the shameful relatives who couldn't help when you needed, so we won't attend the ceremony. That's why nobody's coming today. I just thought I'd eat the food and go back. It's a waste otherwise. That's completely outrageous. I can't hide myself shaking up. Why would the entire family go to such lengths to make things difficult? It was supposed to be a day of celebration for you. What could have possibly led them to such a decision? Seeing my silence, John reassured me by saying, I loved her, but I can't forgive her for what she said to you. My pride. Uncles in our family feel the same way. If she can't consider you as family, I can't be part of hers. I'm thinking of breaking off the engagement. Just as John finished speaking, a woman burst into the room. John's girlfriend was in her bridal gown. How long are you going to keep me waiting? We're already past the start time. To the agitated her, John replied calmly, At the very least, none of my family will be coming. Daniel here didn't come for this wedding. He's just here to see me. Let's just have our meal and call it a day. As for you and me, we can't get married. I'd like to say this engagement never happened. That's impossible. You can't just cancel the wedding at the last minute like this. John's response to his girlfriend, whose face turned red with embarrassment and anger, was cold. You seem to have said some pretty terrible things to him. Remember the family issues we discussed before? Knowing all that, you decided to say something that would upset him, and while I wasn't around at that, I was pretty surprised at first how low you could stoop, but then I realized you're exactly the type to do something like this. You only see people based on their achievements, don't you? Unfortunately, I'm also what you'd call a failure raised by another failure, so I can't marry a woman who doesn't care about my family. She burst into tears. I'm just telling the truth. I can't introduce a family where the husband's family consists of only high school dropouts working in construction. How shameful. I asked myself if I could remain silent after being talked to like that. John defended me and sided with me, and if I kept my silence, it would make him look foolish. This was an issue between her and me. While she might be right, I have lived my life doing my best. It hurts when someone who knows nothing about me looks down on me. Yes, I might not be the brightest. and I have no prestigious credentials. But even without such things, I have lived my life strongly to protect my precious family. You have no right to deny my way of life." With her hysterical crying and my loud voice, her family and the venue staff began to gather. Inadvertently, everyone heard her offensive words. Her parents, figuring out what was happening through her words, began to bow their heads to my brother and me. "And here I thought you finally found a man to marry, and you start saying such things. I thought I could finally relax, thinking you were going to move out." Her father, his head in his hands, scolded her. "We deeply apologize. It's partly our fault for spoiling her too much. We sincerely apologize and hope you can forgive her." Her mother, despite wearing a beautiful dress, was making a shamefaced, apologetic expression and bowing to my brother and me. Even her friends who were attending the wedding seemed to have had enough of her offensive remarks about the groom's family. No one came to her defense or interfered. The attendees just stared at her in disbelief. Even she, usually so glib, was left speechless. Perhaps she finally realized the reactions her words were causing, or maybe she finally understood the disastrous situation she had created. "I was 7 when our parents died," John began. "My older brother, who started working as soon as he finished middle school, has been sacrificing so much for me. His life isn't something that just anyone can emulate, and even if I was in the same position, I don't think I could have done it. Even if one has a good education, it doesn't guarantee they can live that way. I knew this even when I was 7, but you couldn't understand that. You're less mature than a 7-year-old. I can't marry a child, and I don't want to, so I'm breaking off our engagement. I don't want to see you anymore." After saying this, John apologized to her parents for the abrupt cancellation and then to the staff. Though he had apologized very respectfully and humbly, it was also a clear statement that he had no intention of changing his stance. She, who ruined one of life's biggest turning points, her wedding, through her own actions, stared blankly at the aftermath. "You have a family who scolds and protects you in times like these, right? My younger brother, too, when he heard about our phone call, was angrier than me. While educational background and work history are certainly important, for me, he is far more important than any of those things. So, knowing he outright refused to marry someone like you, I'm a little relieved now." She cried again. It was probably the only thing she could do. And so, the wedding ceremony was canceled before it could even begin. Afterward, John really did break off the engagement with her. Since they hadn't submitted their marriage license yet, there were no procedures to be taken care of, and he quickly cut ties with her. Later, some attendee disseminated photos of the scene online, and it seems that she and her family lost their standing at work because of this. She probably won't be able to date or marry for a while. It's probably a good medicine for her, who was so arrogant. John says that she took care of the entire cost of the wedding cancellation. Of course, it's only right, since she was the one who caused this mess, and we, the victims, don't need to worry about it. I'm grateful to him. I don't know anyone else who would get so angry for me. Not just because we're family, but because he respects me as a person, and although this isn't the ideal circumstance, I got to learn this again. After this incident, it feels like our bond as brothers has deepened even more. I'm really proud of John, whom I've raised with care even though we don't have parents, for growing into such a fine person. Encouraged by him, I started studying for my high school equivalency exam, something I'd been contemplating for a while. A year later, I passed the exam and switched jobs. It's a completely different field from what I was doing, but learning something new is fun. While working hard, I got my first girlfriend. Of course, she's a woman who values me and my precious family. I plan to invite her over and introduce her to John soon. I want to brag about my wonderful younger brother.
From today, I've decided to take care of Amy and Yuri. When my husband got back home, there were his sister and her child standing next to him. He has decided that we live with them together and support them. How could he prioritize his sister and niece over our own daughter and me? I can't stand it anymore. What a deadbeat husband. I will sump him myself. This is my vengeance story against my awful and despicable sister-obsessed husband. My name is Emilia. I've been married to Ethan for 5 years. We have a 4-year-old daughter, Luna. Our daughter, who we had right after our marriage, is adorable. She's our everything. My husband and my daughter, they're my precious family. But it seems like my husband did not feel the same. One evening, while waiting for my husband to return, I was cooking curry with Luna. "Mommy, when is Daddy coming back?" Daddy is late today. I wonder what happened. My husband, who usually comes straight home after work, but today didn't come back even after 7:30 p.m. No response to my calls or messages either. "Mommy, I'm hungry." "Yeah, all right. Let's go ahead and eat without Daddy today." After finishing dinner with my daughter and tidying up, my husband finally returned home. "Welcome back. Wait, what?" Beside Ethan, there were his sister Amy and her daughter Yuri. For some reason, they were carrying a ton of luggage. "Ethan, what on earth?" I was unable to process the situation. He then blurted out the unbelievable. "From today, we're taking care of Amy and Yuri." What? Take care of these two? I don't understand. He could have said something before bringing them home. I could not wrap my head around this whole situation. I barely squeezed out my words. Support them? Why all of a sudden? I haven't heard anything about this. It was a sudden decision. What can I do? Amy had a fight with her husband. That's why she contacted me. Support? For how long? We don't even have any spare room in our apartment. Despite my subtle hints of inconvenience, my husband is unbothered. You can let them use your room, right? My room? You can move to Luna's room. Then we'll have a free room and Amy and Yuri can stay there. What the... My husband expects me to endure all this like it's nothing. Why do I have to put up with this when we're the one providing for them? I really don't understand. My husband, with a big smile, invited his sister and niece inside and kindly told them, "Feel free to make yourself at home from today." Without even a word of sorry to intrude, the two of them stepped in, settled themselves on the couch, started watching TV. I pulled my husband aside and whispered, "Hey, are you out of your mind? Taking care of these two all of a sudden? We don't quite have much room in our budget either, you know." My husband then sighed and made a disgusted face. "Jeez, Amy's struggling and you're being so cold-hearted. Can't you at least help her out a little?" That's not it. I don't mind if they stay with us for a while, but to support them is a different story. At least they should contribute to the groceries. What? You're absolutely stingy. Amy's not working, so it's obvious she can't contribute. Calling me stingy. I don't care about your opinion. My precious sister is in trouble. As the head of the household, I've decided to support her, so you should obey me. Saying this, he went on to play games with them. Moreover, the curry I saved for tomorrow was completely eaten up by my husband and them. All the while, I was getting yelled at by my husband. "Prepare more nutritious meals for my niece." Has he ever cared about nutrition of our own daughter's meals? I see. He can be that caring of a person when it comes to his beloved niece. My husband completely sided with his sister and dismissed my feelings. Worse, he labeled me as a cheapskate for worrying about our finances. She can't contribute to the food expenses because she isn't working. That's not my problem. No matter how much they're struggling, it's not like we can afford to provide for them indefinitely for free. The following day, and the day after that, My husband only spoiled his sister and niece. He barely acknowledged me and our daughter. Amy, I got the cake you said you wanted. Oh, thanks, Ethan. I saw some toys from Yuri's favorite cartoon on sale. Couldn't help but to buy them. Wow, thanks, Uncle. The cake was only for his sister and niece, and of course, the toy was only for his niece. Our daughter and his niece are about the same age. It wouldn't be hard to guess that our daughter would also love some cake and toys. But I have to hold out a little longer. Once his sister makes up with her husband, they'll leave our house and our family life will return to normal. Telling myself that, I managed to suppress my anger. Then, one day, my daughter asked me, Mom, does Dad like Yuri more than me? What? Because he's always nice only to Yuri. He doesn't even respond when I try to talk to him. Saying that, my daughter's eyes welled up with tears. I couldn't say anything, and I hugged my daughter tightly. Don't worry, he's your dad, Luna. Though I managed to calm her down for now, this can't go on. Some days later, I asked my husband to change his attitude. Luna's feeling left out. It's fine that you adore Yuri, but you have to spend time with Luna too. All right. It's such a hassle, though. A hassle? Our child is Luna, not Yuri, you know. Yes, I got it. I just have to pay attention to Luna, right? Although I told him about our daughter's feelings, the situation hasn't changed at all. My daughter looked at my husband, who was happily playing with our niece, with sad eyes. And it's not like my sister-in-law would take care of our daughter instead of my husband. My husband and my sister-in-law were always with Yuri. I was the only one who paid attention to our daughter, but she seemed lonely nonetheless. A whole month passed living with them, and my family was falling apart. We barely made ends meet. Moreover, no matter how much I cleaned up, our apartment had always been messy because my sister-in-law and niece never tidied up. My husband continued to spoil his sister and niece, disregarding my daughter and me. I couldn't bear this any longer. I finally confronted my husband. You've crossed the limit. I'm sick of it. Can you seriously think about our future? What are you up about? Out of nowhere. I've been saying this over and over, haven't I? Life's getting harder and harder, and what are you planning to do about Amy and her situation? You're not going to say that we're going to live together forever, are you? What can we do? She's currently arguing with her husband. Then, shouldn't she get a divorce or talk it out with her husband? It's already been a month, you know. Luna and I are at our limit. Please consider our feelings too. I knew that bringing up this topic would upset Ethan, but I had to do it for Luna and for our family's future. Luna loves you, you know. She sees her dad, who adores being nice only to his niece. Of course she's going to feel hurt. I emphasized Luna's feelings more than my own. Ethan's a father too, so he should understand how lonely Luna feels. He should change his attitude. But what came out of his mouth was a complete shocker. Amy is my sister, right? She's like a family to you too. How can you say such cold things? You're so heartless. Heartless? Me? I was shocked by his word. It's not that I dislike my sister-in-law and my niece. I just needed our current situation to change. But Ethan reacted as if I was the bad guy. I've always thought you were cold-hearted. Amy's in trouble, and Yuri's lonely without her dad, so of course I have to give them attention. You're there for Luna, so why can't you handle it? Whoa! Hold on. I'm taking care of all the household expenses. Why do Luna and I have to suffer? My salary's part of our family budget, you know. Well, of course. Amy is my sister. That makes her your family too, yet you're always saying cold things. Don't you feel embarrassed? Ethan shouted at me, blaming me entirely. He looked at me with cold eyes, clearly showing that his sister and his niece are more important for him than our daughter. Finally, he said something that made me doubt my ears. Amy wants to keep living here, so from now on, we'll be taking care of them. We are responsible for everything: food, clothing, and shelter. In that moment, all my hopes were gone. I was a fool to even have thought that he might understand if we talked. The old life will never come back to us. I squarely looked Ethan in the eyes and said, "Fine, then let's get a divorce." Huh? My husband was making a face I'd never seen before. He probably did not understand what I had just said. After a long silence, he stared at me incredulously. Divorce? What the hell are you talking about all of a sudden? You're kidding, right? Do you really think I'd joke about something like this? If you're going to ignore mine and Luna's feelings, then I won't consider yours either. I'm going to make the best decision for Luna and us to be happy. Probably never expected me to bring up divorce, he looked incredulous and scoffed at me. What are you talking about, divorce? You couldn't possibly raise Luna on your own. Sure, single parenting is tough, but it's a hell of a lot better than continuing like this. If you're going to go that far, then go ahead and file for divorce. I'll even sign the papers. Just remember, if you change your mind later and say, I don't want a divorce after all, it's too late. Did he think I would back down? I pulled out the paper I had prepared earlier and handed it along with a pen to him. Seeing the divorce papers in front of him, he froze. He just stared at me, not making any move to fill them out. What's wrong? You're going to fill out the divorce papers, right? Oh, no. I forced him, who was visibly rattled, to hold the pen. Come on, fill it out. You said you would, didn't you? No, that was just a joke. What? A joke? After saying it's too late if you change your mind later? You dared me to divorce you, and now you're too scared to go through with it? Pathetic. Shut up! I'll fill it out, okay? After signing his part, he thrusted the paper at me. There, I signed it. Happy now? Get out! You're annoying! I calmly responded to him. No, you're the one who's leaving, okay? What? Huh? What do you mean, huh? Have you forgotten that this apartment is under my name? And ever since you started supporting your beloved sister, even with you chipping in, our living expenses weren't enough. And I was the one covering all the rent. Yet you still had the audacity to continue living here without any guilt. Are you stupid? Are you out of your mind? Suddenly, a voice cried out from behind. Wait a minute, what's going on here? Amy, my sister-in-law, ran towards Ethan and grabbed him by the collar. Ethan, what the hell is happening? You said we could stay here forever, right? So you were lying? Amy, no, this isn't... What do you mean this isn't? I trusted you because I thought you would keep us in your home forever. I can't believe you're kicking us out. I didn't think things would turn out like this either. Huh? You can't even deal with your own wife, can you? What did you say? I had enough of their nonsense bickering. I threw my sister-in-law and her children's belongings out onto the front door. Hey, wait! What do you think you're doing? Amy approached me in anger, but now that I decided to divorce Ethan, I felt no obligation to protect this woman. Just getting rid of someone else's belongings, that's all. Actually, you're trespassing. Can you leave as soon as possible? I told her in a quiet voice, causing Amy to shiver and step back. Hey, you don't have to throw out our stuff. And you, Ethan. I turned to my ex-husband. Could you please leave us as well? I have no need for you two anymore. What kind of thing is that to say to your husband? You're not my husband anymore. You're my ex-husband. I never thought you were such a cold-hearted woman. Well, that's too bad for you. You've stepped on my landmine. If you find your sister and her child cuter than our child, why don't the three of you happily live together? Where are we supposed to go if we leave here? Are you actually kicking us out? I don't care. Do whatever you want. Now get out. I'm going to call the cops if you don't. After confirming that my husband and his sister's family reluctantly left, I closed the house door. I probably won't see them again. Glancing around the room, I noticed my daughter looking at me with a puzzled expression. Mama, where did Daddy go? I'm sorry, Luna. Do you think it's okay if it's just Mama and you from now on? Then my daughter showed a moment of hesitation, but her smile quickly returned. I'll be okay as long as Mama's here. I'm fine as long as I'm with you. She ran up to me and I hugged her tightly. That's right. Even without my husband, we will be fine. Surely the two of us can be happy. Later, I repeatedly shipped their belongings to my husband's parents' house and explained the situation over the phone. My husband and his sister's family seemed to have returned to their parents' house as expected. However, they seemed to have been disowned and kicked out of the house by their furious parents. As a result, my ex-husband rented a small apartment where he now lives with his sister and his niece as a family of 3. They probably wished for that, so I couldn't care less. I found out later that the reason my sister-in-law quarreled with her husband was due to her spending habits. Now, it seems she's being asked to repay the money she spent from her husband. Almost every day, my ex-husband has been sending me cringy texts. I was wrong, so forgive me. I love you and Luna the most. I want to get us back as a family. Of course, I didn't reply to any of them, and they were immediately thrown in the trash inbox. Luna doesn't want to see her dad at all, so we have no plans to meet him. I plan to move out of this place soon because I would be in trouble if we were to storm in here. For my daughter, I want to give her lots of love and everything in the world. Even without a father, I want her to live a happy life.
One day I received a call saying my husband had been in an accident. The shock wasn't so much the accident itself, but the news that his mistress had been in the car with him. The mistress didn't survive, and my husband was left paralyzed from the waist down. In the midst of this, he began to demand that I take care of him for the rest of his life. Was I expected to dedicate my life to caring for a man who got into an accident while cheating on me? This can't be happening. I'll teach you a lesson. My name is Mandy, and I'm 32 years old. I live with my husband Ray and our daughter Lily, who's almost 5 years old. I had taken a break from my job when I got pregnant, but I began working again when Lily started daycare. Between work and raising a child, I'm always busy, but I'm also leading a fulfilling life. This is all thanks to Ray, my husband. He has been working diligently and also does a great job of taking care of Lily. As a husband, a father, and the head of our household, he has always done his best. It has been our daily routine to have dinner and listen to Lily's stories after Ray gets home from work.
Hey, Daddy, listen, I drew a picture at daycare today.
Oh, did you? You're really good at drawing, Lily. You should draw a picture of me next time.
Oh, okay. Oh, and Mary told me that her family went to the amusement park today. I want to go too.
Amusement park? Huh. How about we all go together next weekend?
Really? Yay! I love you, Daddy.
I love you too, Lily. Well, after your mom, of course. Then Ray would wink at me, and Lily would puff her cheeks out in pretend annoyance. These normal days spent with my family are my greatest treasure. But when did Ray start to change? He started coming home late and often left early in the morning on his days off. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence, but the frequency of these strange behaviors began to concern me. So I decided to confront him. Ray, you've been coming home late a lot lately. Are you busy at work? Huh? Oh yeah. I've got some new projects and stuff. I see. But you also leave early in the morning on your days off, and you never tell me where you're going. Well, I've been visiting my parents. I thought I should check up on them from time to time. Your parents' house? To be honest, in-laws aren't young. But we see them once every few months and they're doing fine. So why all these sudden visits? Although I was suspicious, I didn't want to press him too hard, so I let it go that day. 2 weeks later, Ray texted me again saying, "I'll be home late. I have overtime work to do." He didn't get home until after midnight. Ray came home in high spirits, but something about him was off, and I noticed immediately. "Ray, where have you been?" "I told you I had to work late, didn't I?" "But what about that smell?" "What smell?" "The scent of sweet perfume. It's clearly a woman's fragrance. Why would you smell like that if you were working late?" That's... My husband's eyes were obviously darting about, clearly flustered. As I pressed him further, he quickly interrupted me. Actually, there was a client entertainment event today." "A client event?" In response to my question, my husband nodded vigorously. "You see, one of the VIPs at the client's place is a woman. You'd expect some perfume to rub off if we were drinking together, right?" "Then why did you lie to me from the start? There was no need to lie about overtime." "I felt guilty because you were working hard at home, taking care of housework and Lily. I didn't mean to lie. I didn't want to make you worry." Seeing my husband's hands clasped in front of his face, I couldn't press them any further. As I had work the next day, I decided to let it go and head to bed. Ever since, every time he came home late, I could smell that perfume on him. Whenever I asked him about it, all he would say was, it was another client event, and nothing more. Unknown to him, my suspicions only grew stronger. Then one day, feeling that something was definitely off, I left Lily with my parents and decided to meet my younger sister. As soon as I met up with my sister and we settled at a cafe, I started to discuss my husband's behavior with her. Ray has been coming home late a lot recently.
"So you're saying he always has a scent of a woman's perfume, huh?"
"Yeah."
"He's definitely cheating."
"Really?" My sister gave a serious nod, confirming my suspicion. I had an inkling myself, but hearing it from a third party made me believe it even more. So Ray is really cheating on me.
"Firstly, it's strange to have client events with the same client so frequently. And besides, he must have been close enough for the perfume to stick, right?"
"I guess so."
"Sis, I know it's tough with Lily and all, but I think you should have a serious talk with Ray."
"Yeah." Just then my sister said in a disturbing tone,
Hey, look there."
What's going on?"
"Speak of the devil, look over there. Isn't that your husband?"
Following the direction of her finger, I saw Ray. Next to him, a young woman, younger than me, was tightly clutching his arm. The sight was so cruel, I was at a loss for words. Ignoring my state of shock, my sister started snapping pictures of them on her smartphone. "Wait, what are you doing?"
"What are you doing just standing there, sis? We need to gather evidence."
"But..."
"No buts. Hurry up. I'll take pictures. You start recording a video."
Urged by my sister, I shakily activated the camera app on my smartphone. Ray and the woman got into Ray's car, arm in arm, and kissed each other numerous times. I recorded everything that transpired. I stopped the recording once the car drove off. Here I was, Ray's wife, now holding evidence of my husband's infidelity. I had forgotten that we were in a cafe as tears started rolling down my cheeks. My sister remained silent for a while, but then she gripped my hand and firmly said,
"Sis, I know it's hard, but you should really have a serious talk with Ray."
I know, but..."
"This is also for Lily's sake. Can we just stand by and let such a despicable man who lies without remorse and cheats be her father?"
"For Lily's sake." At my sister's words, I was jolted back to reality. That's right. The only one who can protect Lily is me. Ray may be Lily's dear father, but I have to confront this sooner rather than later. Now that I know what he's done, he has no right to be a father. After talking it over with my sister, we decided to have Lily stay at our parents' house for the day. I returned home to wait for my husband's return, but he didn't come back no matter how long I waited. Around 10 p.m., our rarely used landline rang. Who could it be at this hour? As I picked up the phone, a man's voice asked, "Is this Mrs. Johnson's residence?" "Yes, it is. Who am I speaking with?" "This is the police. This is Mr. Ray Johnson's residence, correct?" "Yes, it is. The police? Did my husband do something?" "Please stay calm. Your husband has been involved in an accident." "What?" "According to the police, my husband had a car accident and a woman who was in the passenger seat lost her life. My husband was apparently taken to the nearby university hospital. I rushed to the hospital without even grabbing anything. At the university hospital, my husband was undergoing surgery in the emergency room. A police officer who rushed in explained the situation at the time of the accident. Based on the circumstances, it appears that your husband and the deceased woman were in a close relationship." "Is that so?" Seeing my stunned response, the police officer questioned with a "huh?" expression. "Did you have any suspicions, ma'am?" "Yes, just today, I was about to confront him with the evidence of his affair." "I see. This is difficult to say, but there's a possibility that your husband might have some disability due to the aftermath of the accident." "That's enough. Just enough." In the subsequent conversation with the police, it was revealed that my husband's mistress was also married. The husband of the mistress, who had also rushed over, seemed very disoriented, and his expression was indescribable, given that only Ray had survived. A few days later, my husband, who had finished his surgery, regained consciousness for the first time since the accident. Upon receiving the news, I headed to the hospital with my parents, sister, and daughter. I left Lily with my sister, and only my parents and I went into the hospital room. When we arrived, my in-laws were already there. As explained, it seemed that my husband was left with paralysis on one side of his body due to the accident. I'm sorry. It seems I've caused you all some worry." My husband, seeing us, started to apologize remorsefully. Before I could respond, my in-laws rushed to his bed. "What are you apologizing for? It's good enough that you're alive. Being alive is like hitting the jackpot." "That's right, Ray. You're usually a good man, and that's why you survived this." "Dad, Mom, thank you. I'm really glad I survived." My husband and my in-laws were getting carried away as if the fact of the affair never existed. My worry turned into anger, and I finally spoke up. "Sorry to interrupt your celebration, but Ray, will you divorce me?" "What?" "I got these divorce papers. Can you please sign them?" "Divorce? What are you suddenly talking about?" "Suddenly? You had an accident with your mistress. What are you even saying?" "No, you got it all wrong. The woman in the car with me was just a business associate, not a mistress." My husband began to lie desperately. Does he really think he can hide it from me? I decided to reveal the truth to him. "Do you plan to play dumb now? I already know. I know that you cheated, Ray." "No, I swear I didn't cheat." "You were at a cafe with your mistress on the day of the accident, weren't you? I saw you two get into the car together." "No, that's not." "Don't make excuses." I had forgotten I was in a hospital room and raised my voice. "You even cut down on the time with Lily to play around with your mistress. What the hell were you thinking?" My mother-in-law interrupted me with a frown. "Oh dear, Mandy. What are you so angry about? If Ray cheated, it's because you did something wrong." "What? Mother-in-law, what are you saying?" "Ray just regained consciousness, right? And you've heard it from the doctor, haven't you? Ray ended up with hemiplegia due to the after effects." "What does that have to do with our divorce?" "From now on, he needs your dedicated care. If you have time to talk about divorce and such, you should be studying for caregiving right away." "That's right." My husband echoed his mother. "You'll be taking care of me from now on, as my wife." That's when it happened. Any lingering sympathy I had for my husband evaporated in an instant. At first, I truly felt sorry for my husband who had an accident. Even though he had cheated, ending up with hemiplegia was... But now I couldn't care less. They have not an ounce of remorse for what they've done to me. All they care about is themselves. Suppressing my rage, I addressed my mother-in-law. Are you serious? Who in the hell would want to take care of a cheating idiot? An idiot? Mandy, how dare you insult my Ray? Well, it's the truth, isn't it? It's true he cheated, and it's true he caused an accident. Isn't everything your son's fault? But even if the accident was his fault, cheating happens because of the other person. If I did something wrong, does that mean he's allowed to cheat? I was desperately trying to balance work, childcare, and housework for my family. You say it's my fault, and you still defend your cheating son. Well, that is. My unusually assertive tone made my mother-in-law's voice gradually quieter. My husband, unable to stand by, yelled at me. How dare you talk to my mom like that? Perhaps believing that being a patient makes him superior, my husband glared at me. I moved closer to him, looking down on him with intensity, and he muttered, "What the?" in a frightened tone. Cut the crap, would you? Who do you think is responsible for the situation we're in now? Well, that is... The reason we're in this mess in the first place is because you betrayed our family by cheating, right? Getting into an accident with your mistress? You must be a total fool. There's no other word for it. What the? It's all messy now because you suddenly started talking about divorce. He still seems not to feel at fault for what has happened. With a deep sense of disgust and bitterness in my heart, I lashed out at him. Grow up, you worthless man. How long are you going to blame everyone else? Anyway, think about it yourself. You're the one who cheated, and on top of that, your mistress died in an accident. Stop justifying yourself. Mandy? You destroyed our family with your thoughtless affair. I don't know how much pain Lily will have to go through because of you. You've not only hurt me, but you've also trampled on our daughter's heart. There's no way I could stay married to someone like you. Just go on and paralyze yourself for all I care. As I walked away, Ray was at a loss for words, his face pale. As I caught my breath, the hospital room door opened and our daughter walked in. Lily? How did...
Sorry, sis. I took my eyes off Lily for just a moment.
Following Lily, my younger sister entered the room, bowing her head apologetically. Seeing Lily, Ray seized the opportunity to latch onto our daughter. Lily, you wouldn't want... Right?
Daddy? What?
You don't want Daddy and Mommy to be apart, right? To Ray's question, Lily gave a thoughtful, before finally saying,
If Mommy's here, I'm fine.
At her words, Ray let out a dumbfounded, what?
Because Mommy looks sad when she's with Daddy. That's because Daddy's doing something that Mommy hates, right?
Well, that's...
I hate the daddy who makes Mommy sad. I don't need a daddy. I'm fine with just Mommy.
No way. Ray seemed to be taken aback by Lily's words. With nothing more to say, he lay down on the bed, his shoulders slumped. When I once again shoved the divorce papers at him, he quickly gave up and signed them. I then hired a lawyer and sought alimony and child support based on evidence of his infidelity. He was also told about the damages by the husband of his mistress, so the amount that he had to pay was considerable. His mistress was a junior at his company, and his infidelity was exposed, leading to his dismissal. It's not just an affair, but he took a woman's life, so this is just retribution. The double damages drained Ray's savings, and he's now living in a small apartment with his in-laws after selling his house. I heard that his in-laws are taking care of their wheelchair-bound son every day. As for me, I've decided to stay at my parents' house for a while with Lily. Once we settled down, I plan to live alone with Lily again. But we thought it would be better for Lily's mental health to live with a lot of people for a while. On our way to the daycare, I asked her about the one thing that had been bothering me. Hey, Lily, are you really okay?
Huh? With what?
With Daddy not being here. Is it okay with just Mommy and you?" At that, Lily smiled brightly and said cheerfully,
I love Mommy the most. I hate everyone who makes Mommy sad.
"I see. Mommy loves Lily too." Lily threw her arms around me with all her strength. Holding my daughter in return, I determined to protect her for the rest of my life.